Introducing Minor Wisdom Quintet.
1, 2, a skidoo-doo-doo.
Minor Wisdom.
Another day, another dollar, another minor wisdom. This week, I've got Russ Brown. Most of you know him as H. He is from College of the Mainland down in Texas City, Texas. And he is doing some great things, has taken that department, and the sky's the limit with that guy over there. He's a fight choreographer extraordinaire. He does dialects. You'll hear a couple of, theatrical voices in the interview. Sat down with him and ate some barbecue. Same place I went with Luis Munoz. Had a great time. Barbecue's really good. Shout out to Bighorn Barbecue. Not paying me anything yet. Anyway, you can find Russ Brown. It's simple. It's like he planned this, but his website is hrussbrown.com. He's also started a combat fight choreography company with two of his proteges. It is called Armed to the Teeth! ! Armed to the Teeth! And it is A2DT stagecombat.com. That's A2DT stagecombat.com. I'm going to put it in the information too, so you can just click on that in this podcast info. Lots of happenings this past week with our thespian board member retreat that we have every year just to get things ready for the year. We've figured out that we have over or just at 15 events during the school year or during the year with summer included. And that is a lot. So we have to get together to plan that stuff. And that's what we did this week. And it was great. And there's going to be a lot of new stuff this year. Not going to tell you all that stuff. It'll come out on social media. It'll be on the website. Make sure you are checking TexasThespians.org for all that information. New teachers, make sure you're getting ahead of that now. Mandy Tapia is going to be the mentor for you people and making sure that you guys have all your questions answered. And it's going to be a fun year at the Gaylord Texan once again. I've also got TETA coming up at the end of September. That, too, is in Dallas. Not a lot of love for Houston this year with our conventions, with our festivals, but don't worry because, again, like I said last week, USITT, which is rarely down here in Houston, is here in April. We've got a while till that. But for all those technicians out there, tech teachers, tech students, all of you have to go to USITT at least once in your life to experience it. Why not do it while it's in Texas? And you Dallas folk can just come down here. Austin folk can ride your bikes over here. Corpus Christi folk, you could surf over here and attend USITT. So there's a lot of stuff going on. We've also got these leadership conferences happening with thespians. So, yeah, man, enough information. This stuff is boring to talk about. Why don't we get to the Groner joke and then this week's interview with the one and only Russ Brown. Going punny this week. An actor I know fell through the floor recently. It's just a stage he was going through.
Hello. Hey, how's it going? My name is Russ Brown, and I am the head of the College of the Mainland Theater program down in Texas City. I've been there for about 4 years now, and I'm about to start my 5th year. And we're a great little progressive program, and we train the stars of tomorrow.
Yeah. We were talking before while we were eating, you're from small town USA in Texas.
I grew up near Corsicana. Okay. I went to Mildred High School, which is in a little town out in the middle of nowhere. Growing up, I grew up on a ranch. My nearest neighbor was 5 miles away. The school I went to was K through 12 in a one-hall building. My graduating class was 24 people, which is was a record at the time.
The same 24 almost all the way from K through 12?
I didn't. No, I didn't jump in. Yeah, most of them. Yeah,
Okay.
but not me. I didn't jump in there until about 3rd grade.
Okay.
But yeah.
I'm so late to the game.
Yeah, I know, right? By then they were all, had
Best
dated
friends.
each other, But yeah, everybody knew everybody's aunts, uncles, and
Yeah.
cousins, and everybody's business.
Was anybody related?
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, I had a aunt and a niece in the same class with me.
An aunt and a niece.
Aunt and a
Okay.
niece, yeah.
I can empathize with that. I have a almost 4-year-old brother-in-law.
There you go. It happens.
Yeah, my 7-year-old's uncle is a 3-year-old.
That's funny.
Anyway,
So yeah, extreme rural background.
yeah. So what was theater like back then? Not back then. I shouldn't say back then. What was theater like?
Well, back in my day,
How was Thespis? Was he cool?
he could be. He was a little volatile at times,
But what was theater like in a community that small?
We didn't really have the arts in my school so much. My father was a country and western singer.
Okay.
He was kind of a pretty well-known regional. He opened up for Garth Brooks and Clint Black and George Strait back in the day.
I'm sure we'll hear in the background at some point.
Yeah,
But
at some point.
Yeah.
Big horn. But the theater wasn't really much of anything. I did a 4th grade health pageant
Okay.
where I was Dr. Goodbody. And it was just a pageant, and I didn't think much of it. And then once I got to high school, I did do 2 years of one-act play. And the only reason we did one-act play at my school was because the principals and administrators wanted the points for UIL.
Sure.
And we didn't have a theater teacher, we didn't have theater classes. We had a science teacher who was given the assignment
Of
directing, and sweet man,
Sure.
Billy Glenn Allen. And but we didn't really get any theater training, and so I didn't have much background in it. But I loved getting up and being a goof in front of people and doing that sort of thing.
So what bit you?
Well, the first thing that really bit me is I had fun with the one-act play stuff. But growing up, I did martial arts.
Okay.
I was pretty heavily into martial arts, did a lot of training over the years and fought at tournaments and things like that. And then when I was at junior college, I went to Navarra College, Corsicana, Texas. My sensei got a call from the theater department asking for them to send somebody to show actors how to fall down, because if you take a martial art, the first thing they teach you is how to fall down and not get hurt.
Right.
So he sent me out, and I thought I was going into a rehearsal. And so I walked in and I asked around, and it turns out they were in the middle of auditions. And the guy who was in the pit playing music for everybody auditioning stood up. It was the music director. He stood up and yelled, "That guy sings! Get him up here, he sings!" And I looked down there, and it was the head of my choir from the church I grew up in. He was music directing the show. And so they wrangled me into auditioning for Grease.
Okay.
And I got cast as Roger, sometimes called Rump in the play. And during one part of the show, he gets depantsed by the other T-Birds. And so the director wanted not just a quick, simple depants. They wanted more of a slapstick scuffle fight to get it off of there. And so I got to choreograph that and create that little moment on stage. And it was funny, and it lasted for a bit, and we had a good time with it, and the audience loved it. And through that process, I found out that there was such a thing as a fight director. I had no idea, didn't even consider. I knew there were stuntmen, but I didn't know there were fight directors for the stage. So that was the first thing that really bit me. But growing up where I did, and my family being the conservative types that they were, they knew that I had to get a practical degree because I would never spend my life doing theater.
Right.
When I went to Texas A&M, I was doing journalism.
Am I supposed to whoop?
Yeah, whoop, gig mags, class of '90. I went to Texas A&M, and I was doing marketing in the journalism department, marketing and advertising, because it was somewhat creative,
Right.
graphic design, that sort of thing. And I needed an elective, so I went and took an acting class. Walked into an acting class, and there was this little 5'0" gal with brown eyes and the biggest smile you've ever seen, and we kind of hit it off, and we got engaged that very semester.
Really?
And she was into acting. She was going to be a teacher, and theater was one of her focuses. And so we met in that class, and we'll have been married 30 years this month.
Wow. Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's what really kicked me off, is meeting her.
Yeah.
I knew I was interested and I knew all this other thing, but she was one of the first people who pushed me and encouraged me to do anything with it.
Have you been in a show with her?
Oh yeah, many
Yeah,
many
okay,
times.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know if that became like you didn't, like my wife and I have learned to work well together, but if we were in a show together, it probably wouldn't work well together.
No, we work great together.
Okay.
In fact, we were in a scene that semester with each other, and that's one of the reasons we knew. It was really strange because we had our first date on October 8th, and she had the ring on her finger by November 13th.
Wow.
And we were married the next August. So I hadn't even known her a full year when we got married.
What'd your conservative family think about that?
Well, mine were a little weary, but her folks
They were
just
down.
about hit the floor. They were like, who is this guy and why is he asking this and yada yada.
Does that mean they had lower expectations or higher expectations maybe? Or
Well, maybe they just didn't want to go so fast.
Yeah.
We were in a big hurry, but it's all right.
that's good. It seemed to work.
Yeah, exactly.
And you said you had two kids, a son and a daughter.
Yep,
Yeah.
I have two kids. 26-year-old son
Yeah.
who's an actor in Chicago, and a 20-year-old daughter who's a major in my
so
program.
they both. I feel my wife and I discuss this quite often because we have two kids with two theater parents. They're just kind of screwed, aren't they?
Well, we never pushed
push
them.
it, but they see it,
Yeah,
though.
they see it,
They grow
and
up in it.
they're immersed in it, and they're both just so natural at it. They're
Right.
both more talented than Elizabeth and I ever thought of being.
Right.
So,
Plus, it's your DNA that you're passing on. Yeah.
yeah, we'll say that it's my DNA.
yeah.
No, it's her DNA all the
Well,
way.
but I mean, I don't mean it that way. I mean, like, you
Yeah.
are wired that way, so
Yeah.
obviously they're probably going to be
They've been
close
immersed
to
in
that.
it since
Yeah.
day one. So.
Well, it's good for you.
Yeah.
So you took over at Common, College of the Mainland.
That's right.
You said 4 years ago?
4 years ago. This is my
Okay.
5th year coming up.
Okay. Now, knowing a little bit of the history behind that school and kind of when Mark Adams was there, it was a quite successful, and it's still successful, but I mean, it had some prestige while he
Yes.
was there. Was that pressure, like keeping that kind of?
Well, it was kind of a double-edged sword in a way because when I arrived there, Mark's focus when he was there was on the community theater that was
Right.
housed within the school,
Okay.
and his focus wasn't as much on the program.
Okay.
So by the time I arrived there was only one theater major.
Oh.
In the program. And so when they hired me, the board of trustees was actually on the verge of weighing whether or not to hire somebody and continue the program or to cut the thing out entirely. And so they brought me in saying, it's yours to make or break. We've got this great theater with this great reputation and this level of, professionalism that we espouse
Right.
on that stage, but we need to build up the academic program. So you've got to meld the two and make it successful.
Right.
So that I knew that was my goal right away. And I said, okay, I need money to buy a bag of swords. And they said, what? And I said, yeah, I need money. Give me some money. I'll buy a bag of swords and I will fill this program for you.
Right.
And I said, okay. So they bought me a bag of swords, and the first thing I did,
That's when you started threatening students.
That's right. You will come to my program and you will submit to my will. You will be assimilated. I emailed all the local theater teachers in the high schools and the junior highs and said, hey, I'm the new guy in town. My name is H, and I want to come do programs in your school. Workshops, whatever you need. Do you need help with your show? I'll come help. I do dialects, I do juggling, I do acting, I do auditions, I do stage combat. I'll come do it for free, especially within our district. And just let me meet your kids. Just let me
Yeah.
get to know them and form a relationship. And so that's what I did. And so some of the schools in our area, Dickinson, Santa Fe, Texas City, I go out to all the time. At one point for a while there, I was going to Dickinson once a week. They're just great teachers, and they've got amazing kids who just, because of how they knew the program had been,
Right.
they didn't see it as an option for them because they didn't see a thriving academic program. They just saw a community theater.
Right.
So I convinced them otherwise, and we've grown. And this last fall, we were at 45 majors.
Wow. Some of these kids are seeing you their freshman year. Now they're a freshman coming into your program, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Some of these kids I have been working with and working on since
Yeah.
I met them.
Yeah, that's the definition of vertical alignment.
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think is because in the high school world, and same with college and university setting, but there are recruitment rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what do you think is kind of the line between recruiting and just community relations, if that makes sense.
Well, I recruit pretty heavily. I don't know really of any recruitment rules that would apply to me other than I can't recruit them when I'm at UIL
Is there not
and stuff.
Right? Yeah, you can't do that.
Yeah.
But there's no timeline in the community, college community, as far as like you can't recruit between these months?
Oh no.
Oh, okay. So
no,
it's
I'm
24/7.
I'm working on it 24/7, 365.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Because I know in high school world, we have a window of time that we can actively recruit. Now we can do vertical alignment,
Sure.
and we can call it that, right?
Yeah.
And go to schools that are in our feeder pattern, but we can't recruit to our programs.
Oh no.
And say come to the theater program.
I recruit constantly.
Okay.
I drop that anywhere I can.
Right. Yeah, I guess it would make sense because yours also has financial. There are financial reasons that you would also need students to come to a community college.
Absolutely.
What is so far in the 4 years you've been there? What is the production that you are most proud of?
Ooh, that'd be tough. Wow. As far as like production value, I've been really proud of all of them. We did an outstanding production of Eurydice about 2 years ago. That was
Your
wonderful.
space is beautiful. I mean, like speaking
little
of
three-quarter thrust, seats
it's-
186.
It's a really nice space, and just all of it is a good layout, in my opinion.
Yeah,
But
it's my favorite space I've ever actually
Yeah.
directed in because you
Yeah.
can reach out, touch the actors, may get a little sweat on you every now and then in the
it's a
audience.
good height. It's a good. I mean, everything about it is a very good space. But
I
anyway,
dig it.
so I'll let you finish.
But yeah, I was really proud of that production of Eurydice. It did really well. We got a lot of accolades from Kennedy Center American College Theater Festival for that one. I'm really proud of our musicals in particular that we do. We've got a lot of really great talent right now. Thoroughly Modern Millie has been very successful. And we did a production a couple years ago called Second Samuel that was about prejudices and being closed-minded about people who are different, and it really had an impact on the people who came to see the show. And so I love that. I love the entertainment, and I also love, introducing people to new ways of thinking.
Right. Is there one, and you can go back even in your career before College of the Mainland, but is there a production that got away that you wanted to, that you're like, after in hindsight, you're like, oh man, I wish I could have done it this way, and I feel like it could have had much more of an impact.
Nothing I've ever directed, really. I've
something you've
performed
been in.
in. Yeah.
That's usually the case.
My favorite role I've ever done was I played Sweeney Todd, but I was in my 20s when I did it, and Sweeney is not that age, and I had no, I think I did a good job, and I got good response and stuff from people who saw it, but I could just so knock it out of the park now with the world experience and being of the age that I actually am now. So.
Right. Yeah, we just did that show at my school, so we
yeah.
had an 18-year-old playing Sweeney, so I understand that.
Yeah, I'm going to take a crack at it again one of these days, but that's one.
That's fun. So this is a question I've asked university people, college people, post-secondary people, if you will, and I told you I was going to ask you a question, and I didn't want to give you the answer that these people have given me, but it's all been the same answer.
Yeah.
But I feel like your response may be different. I'm setting you up here because of the active lifestyle you've had in your community. So your response may be a little different. But what is something, and it can be multiple things, but try to think of one that you wish students had better training on before they walked into your doors?
Well, I would have to say the biggest one that I come across is I wish they read plays more and knew how to read plays. I find that as I start talking to them and I mention things like the dramatic structure and the pursuing an objective and the inciting incident and the climax and all that stuff, they don't know how to read plays, and they don't read a lot of plays. If they didn't do it in one act play or in their fall production, then they don't know it, and that's an issue, especially when we're starting to.
It's not the answer I was looking for, but okay.
Yeah, no, that's one of the things. I've got a whole list of them, but
what's another one? Let's see if you can get to the one that I've gotten a few times.
Well, another one that is.
By the way, that was much more insightful than Jim Johnson's BS answer. Anyway, continue.
I can't wait to listen to that one. I also one thing is that cell phones are causing people to schlump and not own their own height, and they're so physically out of touch with themselves because they do less and less. That's a big issue. I've got 6'2" guys, who are these young gods who schlump over like a 50-year-old man at the shoulders because their head's always down in their phone, and that's a problem. And that's a big problem.
Especially with your kind of fight choreography.
Yeah, because I'm
so not using their full physical
movement and physical base. Yeah, so that's a tough one, is getting them in touch with their physical selves. Those are two of the big ones.
Yeah, the answer that I've gotten the majority of the time is scheduling. Kids don't know how to schedule themselves. Don't know how to.
That's a whole nother ball of wax. Yeah, that's life skills.
Yeah.
I was just talking theater skills.
But I mean that's also a theater skill too, obviously. But
just being on time somewhere is mind-boggling to them.
Understanding how that snowball can affect other people and the selfishness of time.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, I've kicked kids out of shows for being late.
Yeah.
I've failed kids in classes because they were consistently late.
How do the kids react to that?
Oh, they don't like it. They don't think it's fair.
Yeah.
You know, and I say, well, it's not going to be fair when you're late 2-3 times to that equity house and then you get fired and never hired back again.
Right.
So I'm doing you a favor right now.
Yeah. Before you get blacklisted.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
All of my students, when they leave me, they can recite in their sleep, 10 minutes early is on time. On time is late. Late is fired.
Yeah. That's Bob Singleton. That's how he raised us too. So you just closed, well, I guess it's been about a month now, with Three Musketeers.
Yep, at the Alley Theater.
And how badly did you want to be the fifth Musketeer on that stage?
Oh, I desperately
And if you don't know
wanted to
Three
be on it.
Musketeers, spoiler alert, this version of it, they're training a guy to be a musketeer. So when I say fifth musketeer, hey Blake, there are three, obviously it's in the title. Well, yeah. But yeah, you were the fight choreographer for it.
Yep, I was the fight director for that, and it was great. It was a wonderful process. I'd been talking with the director, Mark Shanahan, for over a year about the project itself, and so he and I had been working very closely, almost hand in hand. He was just so generous with his time and the amount of artistic freedom and input that he gave me on figuring out what this show is, because it's Ken Ludwig's version. Ken Ludwig, Lend Me a Tenor, Moon Over Buffalo, great playwright, but this is kind of one of his problem plays, because he's taking this, Alexander Dumas novel and adapting it a la Ludwig, and the script on paper doesn't quite know what it wants to be. Right. Is it a classical piece? Is it a pokey comedy? Is it a classic swashbuckler? And it's really none of those things on its first initial read. So our goal was to try and help it find its, jaunty, almost cinematic swashbuckling life. So we could be tongue-in-cheek, but still have real-world stakes at the same time. And so that was a ton of fun. And so I worked with two of my private students who are my main assistants, Troy Beckman and Justin Gibbons. We have our own fight company called Armed to the Teeth.
Armed to the Teeth.
Armed to the Teeth.
We'll get into that in a little bit. Okay.
And so the three of us worked together on creating the fights for the show months in advance. Often when I go in on a show and I'm going to fight direct, I'll have a vague idea of what I want the fight to be like, but I'll go in and I'll just kind of work it on the spot and find my way through it. But because the bar is set so high, there's an expectation. When you see Three Musketeers, instantly everyone thinks, dazzling swordplay, high feats of daring do. And so we knew that it had to be good, and it had to, we wanted to tailor each fighting style to the individual characters, and all these things that the director and I had talked about. So the three of us, Troy and Justin and I, worked together creating the fights ahead of time, or at least a bare outline of them, and we would film them and then send them to the director, and we would have conversations and making sure we're getting the right tone, which are the more jaunty fights, and what can we throw in here, would this be appropriate for this character, kind of thing. And we set the bar very high. We set it very high for the actors going in, but I knew that the actors that I had were not all trained fighters.
Right.
I had one fighter who was exceptionally well trained, and Seth Andrew Bridges, who was coming out of New York City, and he was very well trained, highly trained. He was playing our Porthos. I knew he was going to be great. And then I had a few other actors who had a little training here and there, and then I had some who had never picked up a sword.
Yeah.
Julia Crone, call out Julia Crone. I had some who had never picked up a blade before and really fought. So we started with boot camp. Basically, when we got to the rehearsal hall, we started with boot camp, and I showed, here's the cuts, here's the parries, here's the body positioning, here's the attitude, and so we just hit the basics, and then we dove into the choreography itself. And I went in with a plan A, a very high bar, plan A, and then I had a plan B, C, and D to adjust down depending on the skill level and how far we could get them. We didn't have to adjust anything as far as like dumbing it down or watering it down for the actors.
I knew that cast was hungry for.
They were gung-ho.
They knew what they were walking into.
They were very gung-ho.
Yeah.
So we worked really hard, and it was great because I was given the rare treat of being there for the entire rehearsal process. Often, stage combat is an afterthought, and I get brought in toward the end. I'll get calls saying, "Oh, we open in 2 weeks, and we need a fight in this. Can you come in?" And I'll be given 2 or 3 rehearsals maybe to work. But I was there every day, and we had 2 rooms going at the same time. So if they weren't on stage acting, I could take actors and pull them over and work on this fight while they weren't acting.
Well, and like you said, it's an expectation though for that.
Absolutely.
Just seeing the word Three Musketeers.
Absolutely. And so the alley was smart, and they front-loaded the rehearsal process and made sure that we had that available, and the director was completely on board with that. In fact, he was our biggest proponent of this is how we need to do it. And I was able to get my assistants, Justin and Troy, hired on as to play all the guards. So they were my ringers. I had a couple of ringers in there. So they also knew the choreography, so they were able to help me teach. So I didn't have to go, now I'm this guy, ting, ting, ting. Now I go over here and I'm this guy, So I was able to demonstrate entire fight sequences, and it was just a wonderful process, and it came off beautifully.
How early did you have the set? Because I know like the steps coming into play, I'm sure that...
Yeah, we had 2 great sweeping staircases.
Yeah. And trap doors.
Trapdoors down into the floor. We were up in the rehearsal hall, and they gave us a doofer staircase, one staircase. And so we had that for a little while, just to give us an idea of like, okay, this is happening above ground. This is, that sort of thing. But once we got down into the actual stage itself, and we had the actual levels and the stairs and all that, we took an entire day just to put the fights in the space, and so it was great.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah,
it was a great
is
show.
Wonderful.
And it was funny because when we went to go see it, and Julia's one of my closest friends, if not my closest, but so I had a little bit of knowledge of the background of what was happening. I knew about your incident with the arrow to the head. Way before you posted anything, which I thought was hilarious. And her telling of the story is, Julia dramatic, but it was very funny. Seeing pictures of the promotional features of the show, the pictures of the show on that set, the set didn't read in pictures the way it read on in person. Meaning it was very cartoony, if you will, not to belittle the set, but the way everything was kind of hand drawn almost, and given that. Very 60s, coyote goes running and you just see lines behind him kind of idea. That's what the set was in a way. So when you were talking about not knowing exactly what the script is trying to tell you, it did become, maybe I'm wrong just with seeing it. Mind you, my daughter had to go pee in the middle of it, so maybe I missed the part where they explained it. But seeing the set with kind of just the way that they were presented, and even one of the Musketeers, the one with the facial hair and the kind of cheesy facial hair, and I don't remember his character name, but he was played very straight man, but also comical. He was very, they had a comical feature to him.
Yeah.
And even the show opens kind of comical with, Julia coming in as the evil woman, and then you don't see her again for an hour.
Yeah.
But and just the way that that's presented. But I thought it was really well done. It engaged the hell out of my daughter, my oldest. And if that's the case, you know you've done something well with entertainment value. So
yeah, James Black, he purposely chose that show because he said that he wanted it was his last show as the interim artistic director, and he said that he specifically wanted a show that was going to pull out the whole family and be an entertainment that anyone could come and enjoy with anyone. And so that's exactly what it was.
Even on the front row, and I know it's a podcast so you can't see, but there was a kid sitting there the whole time like this. And then
Slumped
when they
over.
started, but then when they started sword fighting, you see him kind of go and kind of just start sitting up, scooching
Engage
his
a
butt
bit
back.
more.
Yeah, it was just funny to you notice that kind of stuff as a theater person, just because
Sure.
you're looking at everything but the stage practice. Or
That's great.
At least that's what I do. I look up at lights. But it was very well done, and you got a lot of accolades on social media.
Yeah, the reviews were wonderful. I was very
And you signed
excited.
everything Excelsior.
Yes, I do.
So there was that connection. So, but your connection to what is your connection to fight choreography and being like just your? I know you explained earlier the martial arts side of things. But now, what is something that kind of keeps your unique perspective alive? Because there's no fight that's the same.
Every fight's different. Every show's different. Every production of the same show is different.
The actors are different.
It's always different. It's always new and exciting. I'm a certified teacher with the Society of American Fight Directors, and I've been with them for decades now. And we're like the stuntman's union for the stage.
Right.
Any moment of violence, and that could be a simple fall.
Right.
Somebody comically trips over a rug and falls down.
Yeah.
If you're doing it right, somebody's come in and shown that actor how to fall down so that they don't break their wrists.
Right.
Up to a 32-person battle with elves and orcs all over the place. It just depends. But you step in, and a good fight director comes in with an idea of what kind of story are we trying to tell. We want to only give the show enough fight that it's serving the story. We don't want to go gratuitous and say, hey, let's pause our tale for a while and watch all of this fight cool
It's
stuff.
like old school musicals where the song had nothing to do with the plot.
It just pauses and watch a fight for a while.
Yeah.
No, it has to serve the story, move the story along, and then get out of the fight when we're done. And then a good fight director also will tailor the action to the strengths of the actors that he's working with. And so, it completely depends. I've done 28 Romeo and Juliets. Everyone has been different, and some have been, maybe a third of them have been in the classic mode, with the rapier and dagger and the breeches and the tights and all that stuff. And some of them have been like post-apocalyptic Zombieland kind of stuff, all kinds of stuff. So it just depends. I love the
That's how
challenge.
Shakespeare intended it.
Yeah. So I never get bored with it. I never get bored with that. I love it.
And you don't have to necessarily share names or even where it happened, but what's an uh-oh moment?
An uh-oh
A
moment.
good story that,
Well, I'm happy to say.
By the way, uh-oh moment is trademark. If you want to use that, it'll pay me 10 cents. Anyway, continue.
Well, I'm happy to say that none of my fighters have ever been injured in a production.
It's good.
In 30 years. I'm very proud of that, and that's because safety is the number one thing.
Right.
Making sure that it's repeatable 8 shows a week. But I had a scare one time. I was doing a Romeo and Juliet. It was at Nicolet College up in Wisconsin. And I was driving up to the rehearsal hall, and I'm getting out of my car, and the stage manager comes running out the front door saying, we've got to take somebody to the hospital. They were out back practicing her fight, and one of them got poked in the eye. And I thought, oh my God, what? And this is on my watch, but I wasn't there. They were rehearsing off rehearsal time. So I go back there thinking, oh my God, somebody's got a sword in the eye. What's going to happen? And I go back, and they were in the back alley behind the theater, which is gravel, practicing their sword fights.
Losing their footing.
With flip-flops on, one of them.
Okay.
So there's this move called a balestra, which is basically like a leap and a lunge, and the initial leap causes you to take your forward foot and flick it forward as you do the leap. So when he leaped for
Also
the
sounds like an American Gladiator. Anyway, continue.
Yeah. So when he leaped on his balestra, he was way out of distance because the balestra is supposed to close distance. When he leaped for the balestra, his flip-flop came flying off of his foot and hit Mercutio in the eye.
Oh, so
Yeah.
it was, yeah.
So it wasn't my choreography, it wasn't my safety
Right.
features being observed, it was two idiots out back
Right.
being numbnuts playing on gravel with flip-flops and swords. So I read them the riot act, gave him no sympathy.
Right.
And yeah. So
That's funny.
That was the only real scare I've had.
Yeah. That's yeah. H is never going to get hired again because flip flop to the eye.
Yeah, that's right.
So tell me more about the company.
Oh, yes, armed to the teeth, and it's
Okay.
armed, the number 2, and D-A, teeth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're
Little
armed to
fun,
the teeth,
yeah.
stage combat company. We're H-Town's Heroes for Hire.
Okay.
Whatever you need as far as
Do you
violence
do
for
like
the stage.
superhero stuff?
Absolutely. In
Okay.
fact, as
I'm
part
sure
of
that's something you get childish about, like a little giddy
Oh
about.
yeah. Oh yeah. In fact, I teach a workshop class at the regional workshops called Captain America's Mighty Shield, and it's fist versus shield.
Okay.
It's a whole class where we're punching shields in the entire time, and there's clever little ways that you do it and make it
Right.
look like you really are, and it makes a big sound and seems impressive, but nobody actually gets hurt. But yeah,
Yeah.
we teach those kind of classes. You run into a lot of that kind of stuff, like She Kills Monsters has been a big
Right.
one in the last few years. That's kind of fantastical fighting styles and stuff. So yeah.
What's your take on parkour?
Parkour. Parkour is a hoot, and in the hands of well-trained people,
Yeah.
it's quite impressive and very useful.
Just when you said fantastical fighting, it's like I just kind of envision parkour kids, like,
Yeah.
just leaping around and doing stuff.
Yeah, and that's one thing you can do is when you go into a space and you're going to do some kind of fight.
Yeah.
You can go in and go, hey, any of y'all got any special skills?
Right.
And one of them, I do flips, I do the splits, I do this,
Yeah.
I'm double jointed,
Yeah.
I've done that before. I went into a show one time, and this guy was supposed to rough these two kids up, and one of them was double jointed and could hyperextend his arm in
Yeah.
a grotesque fashion. So we made that an arm
didn't
break.
hurt.
No,
Yeah,
it didn't hurt
yeah,
him at all.
yeah.
We made that an arm break in the show, and the
Yeah.
audience would freak out every night. It was amazing. So yeah, again, working off the strengths and skills of your actors.
What's the coolest place you've done fight choreography?
Oh. Well, the coolest, most amazing
in a-
experience
yeah.
was the alley. I mean, they're just...
Well, in more of a childish way, because like in that superhero kind of way, like the alley's obviously a prestigious place to do it. But
Sure. One of my favorite experiences is I actually, once or twice I've gotten to be the fight director for shows I was in. I was playing Jekyll and Hyde in Jekyll and Hyde, and I got to do a sequence where I throw one of the Board of Governors down to the ground, and I pull out a sword cane and jab them in the eye and stick them to the floor through the eye, from the audience's perspective at least.
Yeah.
And that was a hoot. It always got a big reaction every night.
Are you a throny? Do you know what that is?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
So what's your? I mean, I'm just gonna say it. It's been a few years now since this episode has aired. When he gets his head crushed.
When the mountain crushes.
Yeah. Spoiler alert, by the way. I should have said that first. but
Yeah.
We didn't say who he crushes.
Yeah, the mountain crushes.
Yeah.
Mountain crushes a lot of people. It's okay.
Yeah, he does. But that has stuck with me.
Yeah.
Right. That image.
Yeah.
Is that something you think, like, is that something, if Game of Thrones ever becomes a musical or ever becomes a staged
If
show,
there's a God.
yeah, right. I'm sure something's going to, I mean, they've got to do something, but, and even in a prequel, they might start filming spin-offs and do prequel
They're
type
working
stuff.
on a prequel already, yeah.
But I wonder if he'll be in it.
I don't know.
That would be
The
interesting.
mountain.
Anyway, well, not the mountain. Was it Oberon? Was that his name? What was the prince's name?
I
I
believe
think
that
it was
was
Oberon.
it. Yeah.
But a side note about him. If you watch Narcos, I don't know if you watch Narcos. Narcos
No.
is loosely based on the true story of what's his name, the Mexican drug lord. not
Chapo?
Mexican,
El Chapo?
Colombian. But yes, they do Mexico later. What'd you just say?
El Chapo?
El Chapo. Before that, it was the Colombian guy, and I forget what his
I
name
don't
is.
know.
But anyway, he plays the lead detective, the lead
Oh, that same actor?
protagonist. Yeah.
Yeah, I like him.
So when I saw him in that, I was like, whoa, his face.
He healed up
together.
nice.
But the point of the whole thing that I was asking is, are there effects like that you can replicate on stage without the advent of CGI, without all that extra fluff? Are there things like that you,
Oh yeah, we can figure stuff like that
Yeah.
out. That's
Is that part of the fun?
doable. Yeah, I love that.
yeah.
Like we did a Julius Caesar once, and the concept for the director was he kind of placed it during the Gulf Storm.
Okay.
And Caesar was like a big politician type person, and he was in a white suit during the big stabbing scene, and he wanted all of the stabs to show and start bleeding, and so I had to work with the costume designer, and he was wearing a white suit, white vest, white pants,
So
white
every
everything.
day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so we had multiple packets working all over his costume and how all the stabs would land, and so we had to carefully choreograph where the stabs took place, how you hit them,
Right.
and the right amount of blood for each thing so it would come through and all that. Oh, we had so much fun
That's
experimenting
fun.
with that. Yeah. It
Was
blast.
that a higher budget show?
Yeah, it was
that had
it was a
to-
university,
Okay,
and
I
it was
was
like one
gonna
of their
say,
big,
'cause
yeah.
Doing a white suit every day that's fitted with blood packets and specific spots. Yeah.
Oh well, there's
Yeah.
this great a friend of mine out of Chicago, Greg Poljasic. He has this product called Blood Jam, and it washes out of anything
Everything.
with cold water. It's
Interesting.
amazing. It's the only product
Blood
anyone
Jam.
should Blood Jam.
That sounds like a festival.
Yeah, it's the only product anybody should use. But yeah,
Okay.
it's amazing.
There's another little plug.
Yeah, man.
How long has your company been around?
We just formed around the Musketeers experience.
Oh, okay.
Troy and Justin had both been training with me as a private stage combat students. They're U of H graduates, both
Right.
of them, and they trained initially with Adam Noble. But while you're in the U of H program, you get about 2, 3, maybe 4 weapons while you're in there, or at least that's what they were able to acquire. And so they contacted me to get the rest of their weapons. There's 8 weapons that the SAFD can certify an actor in.
Okay.
And so to get the rest of the weapons, they started training with me, and we started working together. We hit it off. We're like-minded as far as like how we approach choreography, and we really balance each other's strengths out in a
Right.
nice way. So we, immediately, as soon as this project was coming on board, I knew 2 people I can trust and who I know speak my language, and so
Right.
I grabbed them immediately.
So now switching gears a little bit, because I don't want to just peg you as this fight choreographer.
No,
You said you did
It's
dialects.
but one of my skills.
Yeah, you said you did dialects.
Yeah, I
is
love
that something
all dialects.
is that something you also coach on?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
In fact, I would
outside of comm.
absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, anytime. In fact, I would venture to say that I'm actually a better dialectician than stage combat guy.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I just don't do
Okay.
it as much.
Right.
Because it's it's a specialized skill, the
Right.
stage combat, and everybody needs it a lot. But
Right.
yeah, I love doing dialects, and I would say I'm quite adept at breaking them down and teaching them.
Right. What are your thoughts on accent help?
The
Jim
tapes
Johnson's.
and things like that. Those are great. Those are great. Those are great.
He's such a kook. He's such an interesting guy. You
He's
know, like
brilliant.
Rolling around. Oh, he's brilliant. Yeah,
He's-
we've had him in a few
He's
times.
forgotten more about dialects than I could ever possibly learn.
Yeah.
You know, I
Yeah,
mean,
that's his lifeblood.
Yeah, absolutely.
he loves it. Dialects are always so when you walk into a show as an audience member, and you know that they're supposed to be speaking just a proper British, EP, not
RP.
EP, RP. I'm
Received
thinking,
pronunciation, darling.
extended play disc, an EP, but an RP. Is there a cringe? Like, do you, is that something that gets you cringy more than anything else? Like, they just open their mouth and it's kind of like,
Yeah, for me, I mean, there's certain the conundrum,
Yeah.
Of do I say or do I say here? You got to be consistent on that,
Yeah.
and the placement has got to be right. As long as I'm not going to get pulled out of it. As long as everybody's on the same page.
Right. Okay.
But if you've got one guy who's really strong and somebody, this person over here, they're wavering in and out of it, and
Yeah.
dropping in and out, that pulls you out of the story. But
Yeah.
if they can just agree that this is the world of our play, and I'll be okay.
Would you recommend, let's say you're doing a show that is and right off the top of my head, I can't think of anything right now, but that is, or like importance of being earnest or something like that. That is, you're supposed to be doing English dialect, right, with your cucumber sandwiches.
Yes.
If you have actors that are trying hard but can't do it, would you recommend just cutting it? You know what I mean?
Yeah, if you can't arrive at a place where it's solid and consistent and it's not going to change, then just don't do it.
It's more forgivable to just be
Yeah.
an actor playing a part rather than an actor that's struggling to do a dialect.
Yeah, because I'll quickly forgive and forget in the first few moments that, okay, that's not a thing in this show. We're not
Right.
doing it. Move on.
Right.
But if they're coming and going, then they're constantly pulling me out of the story and reminding me that these are actors not succeeding.
Right.
You know, then that's serving no one.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Switching a little bit to UIL, One Act Play, because you're an adjudicator.
Yes.
That's how we met.
That's right.
Officially met. I had known who you are, but as an adjudicator, how long have you been adjudicating now?
This last incarnation, I adjudicated when I
Got
was
retrained or
at
whatever.
Lon Morris
Okay.
back in the day, and I was adjudicated it's been about 12 years total.
Okay. Is there a show, and I asked Luis this too, and he didn't give me he just said yes. That was his answer.
Yeah, yeah.
That was his very descriptive answer.
Yeah.
Is there a show that you saw that you advanced, that you thought was state worthy, and they didn't make it?
Ooh, that's tough.
And I'm not talking about at the region level. I'm talking about a little earlier, because
Yeah.
at region, of course, most of those shows are state worthy. You know,
Yeah.
they're not there by accident.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
There's lots of times when I've been like, and then I've seen the shows that have advanced
You're
instead.
questioning. Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And my thing is, every adjudicator is like a thumbprint. We all have a certain level or standard that we're supposed to follow as far as like what makes a show exceptional and
Right.
why it advances and things like that. But for me, I find that certain judges get pulled in by certain things.
Right.
Like I find that sometimes people get buffaloed or distracted by the spectacle of the
Right.
show, and the communication is not there.
Sure.
You know, so the technical elements and this big flashy cool thing just happened, or they really
Yeah.
took a risk with that. But if I don't believe the words that are coming out of the kid's mouth, and if I don't believe the relationship, and if I don't see them actively listening and experiencing that moment for the first time, I don't care how slick the production is, I
Right.
won't advance that. I mean, because it's about the kids.
Right.
You know,
When
it's
you
not
were-
about what the other elements were doing.
When you had your first bout of being an adjudicator, when you were at Lon Morris, was that before panels?
Yes.
So, what is something you miss about being the only judge, and then what's something that you're so appreciative of being on a panel?
I think it's great when a panel, especially when a panel jives, then when you present the results to the schools and they see that, you know, the panel
Kinda
is
all
pretty much
agreed.
across the board.
Yeah,
We all
yeah.
kind of agree that this is how this
Yeah.
was this day. And that's the thing. It can,
It's
you know,
about that
any
day.
any given day, it's about that day. But the panel's on board and they're all like, yep, this is the show that should have gone, and
Yeah.
you know, this show had things that, you know, didn't allow it to at this
Right.
moment. That's great, and it and those people who are upset with the results or unhappy with their results, it helps to soften that blow a little bit. It also takes a little bit of the heat off the judges,
Right.
you know, saying it wasn't just me. I like that about it. But sometimes, you know, you can have a squirrel in the mix of your panel, and you go, what were they?
Somebody goes rogue.
What were they watching? So it happens. It
Yeah.
happens, you know.
Yeah.
And no one's right and no one's wrong. It's
Yeah.
just, you know,
How they felt.
flavors.
Yep. What is something you miss though from, like, do you miss anything from being a solo adjudicator?
Well, yeah.
Did it have its benefits?
The fact that, you know, the things that I see that need rewarding get rewarded.
Right.
You know, sometimes I see what I feel are injustices.
Right.
You know, and again, but by and large, I think the panel is overwhelmingly a positive
Yeah,
thing.
oh, sure. I
But
don't
then
think anybody
there's
disagrees.
there's
Yeah.
always those moments though, and I'm just like, that kid should have been best actor.
Right.
He was the most believable thing I saw all day, and the other kid ended up getting Best Actor. He yelled real loud,
Right.
But there was nothing behind it,
Right.
So I hate that. I wish I was the acting judge at every
Every
contest.
time. I'll keep that in mind.
Yeah.
I'll let Jay Thomas know.
Right.
That's fun. So let's get into a little bit of the superhero stuff.
Yes, please.
So you're a big Captain America fan.
Captain America.
So when did that start? Like how old were you when you got into all that stuff?
I think my first words were super soldier. Since I was a little kid, I collected comic books early on. I grew up out in the middle of nowhere. Our nearest neighbor lived over 5 miles away, so unstructured playtime with no cellular devices, no internet, no television, really. We had 2.5 channels where I grew up. You made your own fun, and I had a very full fantasy life as a superhero in my backyard and in the barn and wherever. So I always dug that adventure aspect and the black and white world of this is right, this is wrong. When you see wrong, you do something about it.
Right.
And I dig Captain America.
What is it about Captain America?
What's great about Captain America and all the superheroes that I truly dig and appreciate is that he has no real superpowers.
Right.
The serum that he took, the super soldier serum, developed by Dr. Abraham Erskine, all it did was help him achieve the pinnacle of human perfection, which is all we're trying to do. Everybody is just trying to be their best human. So that's what I dig about him. There's nothing special about him. He's just as good as a human can be.
Right.
And that's true of all the superheroes that I really dig.
Who is the most overrated superhero?
The most overrated superhero? Oh, well, as he pushes back his glasses, it completely depends. What era are we talking here?
I mean, some people think Batman, because the same thing goes for Batman as he doesn't have any.
I think if I'd cut my teeth on DC, I mean, he doesn't have any powers, but the things he does to overcompensate, he's amazing.
Yeah, he's the king of overcompensating.
Yeah, he's the king of overcompensating. Yeah, sure, you can lift a building, but can you make this?
Yeah.
Gosh, I don't know. Overrated? That'd be tough to say. Yeah. I'm such a fan. That's the thing.
Who's the most underrated then? Who's the one that you're waiting to see turn into in this great age of and I know Comic-Con just released all their stuff between now and like 2022 or 2025, something ridiculous, but
I would love to see Simon Williams, Wonder Man, be a thing. He's awesome. He's one of my favorite characters, but yeah, see, the thing is, I'm not one of those purists. I have so many friends who hate on this movie and hate on that movie. Well, technically, this hero doesn't do that, or they never blah, blah, blah. I'm just thrilled they're being made.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in the era where we had a decent Superman movie where you could still see the wires.
Yeah.
And
Adam West.
Yeah, Adam West, and a really bad, never made it off the shelves, but everybody got a bootleg copy of Fantastic Four, where Mr. Fantastic was a glove on the end of a stick extending across the room, that sort of thing. So I'm just glad any of it's being made. And, if you don't like it, wait around 5 years, they'll remake it, and they'll probably do it better.
Yeah. That's funny.
Yeah, I love it all. I'm just glad it's happening.
And take Captain America out of it, what is your favorite film that has been made to date of the superheroes? And you can narrow it down if you want to
my
say
favorite
a couple.
film? That would be really tough. I would say the last the animated Spider-Man.
The Spider-Verse.
Yeah, Spider-Verse one last year. God, that was so good.
I haven't seen it yet.
It was so good.
Yeah, everybody
it was so well
raves
done. It
about
had
it.
such great heart. I loved it. And Wonder Woman was awesome.
Yeah. I saw that one.
Really dug it.
I liked Logan.
Yeah, Logan was great. Logan was great.
Maybe it's the theatrical side of me because it was the storytelling of it.
I would not want to be the next person to step into Wolverine's shoes. Yeah, because that would be tough. He's so iconic now.
I don't remember exactly what you said earlier, about an hour ago now, about seeing. It went into my head, but going back to seeing him chosen as Wolverine, coming from the stage, being a musical theater talent. I forget what we were talking about.
Oh, yeah, we were talking about Captain America, and we were talking about Chris Evans.
That's right. That wasn't on air. That was on air.
I was talking about how I was a little
apprehensive
about Chris Evans at first because what I knew him as was the cocky Johnny Storm, Human Torch in
Yeah.
Fantastic Four.
But that said, so now it's, seeing him play Wolverine and knowing his
Musical theater background.
And I'm wondering if there were just people that were like, really? They're going to get him to play?
The song and dance man?
Yeah, exactly. And then he goes off to do an extremely successful song and dance movie.
Yeah. Well, my
Great showman.
inside purist at the time was like, he's way too tall to be Wolverine, but I mean, he was great. I mean, he was wonderful. I'd hate to be the actor coming in after him.
So, but I'm sure that's how Batman was. With maybe. I mean, I know the purists are like, Michael Keaton wasn't the original, but
he was the original cinematic.
He was the original, right? Correct.
Not counting the movie that Adam West made.
Yeah, but I'm sure there was also some big shoes to fill at that time.
Sure, absolutely.
In the '90s, and then they didn't fill the shoes with a couple of them. But
every Joker now is getting compared to Heath Ledger.
Yeah.
And I mean, you got to let those things go. People, let it go. People, let it go. just be glad they're being made at all.
So I want to wrap up. I feel like we could go on for hours about you just want to talk about superheroes.
Yeah, right.
Give me a piece of advice. Give me a piece of advice that's related to your background, your upbringing, what you've seen, where you've been, something that is either for the teachers or for the students. Maybe you were told, or maybe you conjured up yourself, that you want to just let the world know about. And by world, I mean the 32 people that are currently listening.
Whoa, I didn't realize it was that many. Don't take yourself so seriously. It's just a play. Family comes first. Theater can come second. Don't be so precious about your art that you're making people around you miserable. If your kids aren't having a good time, if your actors aren't having fun in the process, you're doing something wrong. And make it not about the final product. If you make it about the best possible process, the product will take care of itself. But I see so many people who are so worried about the final product, they're worried about the end result, that they're not taking the steps and investing in those moments. They're like, get past this, get past this, get past this. But if you invest in the moment and ingrain in your kids a love of process, then your product's always going to be great, and you're going to have happy little campers along the way.